Hello and welcome back to the How to Start Your City series. I hope you're having a wonderful day. As you can see here, our city has grown quite a bit. It's doing really well. This area is almost finished. I think when we last left, I was working on trying to get the unemployment up above like 4 or 5%. Now I'm at 11. It's hovering between 11 and 12%, which is good. It gives me the citizens I need to kind of rock and roll this forestry DLC spot here. But I think I'm going to end the How to Start Your City series here on this video. It's been a great journey. I hope it's helped you get your city kind of in good functioning working order. I mean, you can see here this city, we're sitting at 2.7 million. We're making, we'll say, anywhere between 10 and 30K a week. Good old Isla Glades, and we're sitting at about 5,200 citizens. I think I just unlocked this busy town, and I'm pushing the big town. But I'm gonna have to open up the next area to do that, I think. Put down the campus, get high density. A whole lot of big changes will be coming with that as well. Which will, if you want to continue, of course, along the journey with Isla Glades, I encourage you to do so. I'm going to be posting the Let's Play. This will just roll right into the Let's Play. But I think before I kind of let you go, I want to go over some kind of recap on some stuff that we kind of went through, as well as maybe give you some parting words of wisdom, so to speak. Of course, as the journey went along, we stepped into a new map, and we kind of looked around and kind of got the overarching theme or overarching plan of our city. Then we went ahead and planned out the tile, and of course this tile is following that plan. It's always interesting to see how the final city product compares to, like, say, the initial plan that I come up with. And usually I say I stick to it by about maybe 80%. Sometimes I buy a completely different tile than I thought it was, just because of how I decided to expand the city, or something gets moved somewhere else. But like I said, you can see here we got our industry over here: industries DLC, fishing, and generic industry. I'm still working on the commercial in here, and then you can see we got our big residential neighborhood down here. So that kind of all worked out well. Then we framed out our roads and stuff, and we put the roundabout in, got off the highway, and it's moving and grooving really nice and easy. Things are flowing nice, and we haven't even put in the slip lanes yet to kind of expand the capacity of this guy here. Get a little bit here, but traffic does come in chunks, so that's okay. It'll clear out. And what else did we do? We did our road layout here, and it came out pretty nice and organic. So I really like how this kind of came about when we zoned and unlocked some tiny town, and got our park in, and did all that good stuff. And I'd like to just kind of maybe go through some techniques and some services and stuff, and just some ideas around, maybe once again just kind of recap on like garbage and maybe police, fire, and all that stuff, and leave you, like I said, with some ideas that you can try in your city. So you can see over here, I created like a little service area. I got the I like to create like a service area in like kind of in areas that maybe might be kind of going unused in the city, because we had this kind of nice bridge that kind of came into residential development, and we kind of had this nice little pocket of land here. So I got like our cemetery. I put the bio bus depot in here for the buses. Buses are running in the city now. I got probably 3 bus routes rocking and rolling, and I might move this later on, depending on how it shakes out. I got the road maintenance building, which comes with snowfall, increases the road speeds. Of course, I got like we unlocked the geothermal power plant, which is probably the most efficient of the options that I have, because I don't have the wind. Couple recycle centers. This is the park maintenance building. Comes with park life, helps boost the attractiveness. And then I got a little taxi depot. Comes with Avatar here, and I might fill in a few more things in here as we unlock them. Like I said, I like to put these kind of like a little off of the city, off of, like, not necessarily directly next to like residents and stuff, but close enough to where the folks will kind of get the benefit of having those services right there. So let's go ahead and just go through some of these menus real quick in the info views. Let's see. Most important, I guess, the unemployment and the population menu here. Just as you're playing and going through your city, you want to, once it kind of develops, we'll say it gets maybe 1,000 or 2, 3,000 people, right around now, a little earlier, you're shooting for that 4 to 6%, maybe even 4 to 8% unemployment range. Keep your citizens kind of hungry for work. That way they'll fill all those jobs. When you're going to do big things like I'm about to do, which is basically build an industry DLC area, you might want to drive that up to 10 or 12%, just so, because these things suck up a lot of jobs. The fishery stuff, they have a lot of jobs sitting on them. So, you're going to need those people to kind of fill them in, and you don't want to drop your unemployment too low. Another thing in here to kind of keep an eye on is your import and export. Just to make sure you're keeping your balance, a pretty decent balanced city. I got a whole video on how to zone, and this will help you here. Maybe check your traffic spots. We do have a little, I don't say that much traffic. We're still sitting at 93%, which is probably, we should easily be above 90 still at this point. The city. Garbage. Remember, I kind of talked about the different assets with garbage, so we can kind of go in here. Landfills and the kind of like the landfill slash recycle center combo, 2 to 1, 1 to 1, maybe even two landfills to 1 recycle center if you want to get like really kind of like cost efficient with it. If you only have these two, incinerator and landfill, then something close to like 3 landfills to 1 incinerator. The idea there is to have your incinerator, the purpose of the incinerator is to empty the landfill. The purpose of the landfill is to collect your local trash. Kind of put like maybe 2 or 3 landfills on each like kind of like tiled area, depending on the density and kind of what's on there, and then maybe 1 incinerator, roughly, we'll say, and see how that works for you. I wouldn't recommend you building the hub and spoke centralized trash area with these two. That's not what they're designed for. If you want to go that route, that's what these two are for, the waste processing complex from the Sunset Harbor as well as the waste transfer. These guys here go into your like their local areas. You put them in like in this kind of spot here to serve your tile, kind of spot here, put them in a commercial area, let them collect the local trash, and then this guy here, he sends trucks out to pick the trash up, and then he processes it, burns it, whatever. Okay, so that's that. As far as power goes, your most efficient power source is actually your hydroelectric dam. It can go as low as $2 per megawatt. To put that in perspective, the oil power plant is like 16. This guy here, I think, is 15 or 14. This guy here, I think, is 10. Yep, he's 10. The geothermal, I think, I want to say is like 12 or 13. So that's why I'm using him. This guy's pretty high. You can always just take the upkeep and divide it by the power output to kind of get your ratios there. The solar is the if you're playing with no day-night cycle, the solar is the most efficient one. If you can't say use the dam. If you want to get the dam, it'd be at least 700 to 800 megawatts or higher to kind of gain its efficiency. Water assets, the water pump is the most efficient water producer. This actually is, although this small water tower is actually much more efficient than the large water tower. So if you have the space, putting these down is actually going to be better for you financially. But if you got plenty of money, and look is you want more of a look, or you just don't want to put that many down, of course put that down. And let's see here. We talked a little bit about services, but not a whole lot. I would say like these guys here, I tend to put down the small guys. So that's the medical clinic. That's for health. That's kind of like the firehouse and the police station. If you look at the medical, the health service one is the most egregious. If you look at it, it's $400 a week, whereas the hospital is $2,400 a week. That's 6 times higher. So 6 of these equal 1 of these. Putting down 6 of these basically gives you double or more of the coverage, because you can spread them out. You can easily cover a whole entire tile with pure green everywhere with 4 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4. Where you definitely won't be able to do that with 1 of these. So I tend to put these down everywhere, and then maybe in like my downtown, kind of like center city, just to get a bit different feel. I'll go with the big hospital, because it's like a bigger building, and I don't want a rinky-dinky like little medical clinic right next to like my 80-story skyscraper. I'd rather have this building kind of like build like a nice little hospital area for it. But everywhere else, I'll put 1 of these down in my whole entire city, and then use these everywhere else. These guys here are really good for in your residential areas. You can see I put 1 down here and 1 down here. This will help you with your death waves and help kind of diversify your citizens dying. As far as death care goes, while we're in here, same thing with trash. These guys are real cheap, 160 bucks a week. These guys are kind of expensive at 720 a week. So it's more economically beneficial to put more cemeteries down than it is or crematoriums. I mean, of course, once again, you have the money, or you just don't want to be bothered with emptying cemeteries. I mean, you're paying unlimited money. Put down the crematoriums if you want. If you're trying to be a little bit more cost-effective, more optimal, I find that the ratio of about 3 cemeteries for 1 crematorium is good, and you can put about 4 of them down per tile, depending on the density. So you'd want to put like a cemetery up here, maybe a cemetery in here, a crematorium maybe in your commercial area, maybe like another cemetery down here. And then you just always have one cemetery kind of like emptying. You just check them, and you say, okay, when this one gets to like 2,000, 2,500, I just empty them, and then the job of the crematorium is to empty the cemetery, and then the job of the cemetery, once again, is like to collect your dead. Don't zone a whole bunch of stuff in the beginning, all at once, especially while the game's paused. We kind of talked about that when we started zoning. That'll help you avoid a death wave. Once again, maybe zone like 1 or 2 blocks, especially when you're starting to deal with the high density stuff. Zone like 1, 2 blocks, go, plant some trees, build a park, do some commercial stuff, do something, check your bus routes, check your transit. Then once the buildings all kind of like populate, come back, come up, go ahead and zone out another block. You know what I'm saying? And then plant some trees over here. Look at some buildings, like, oh, I like this one. Do the historical trek if you want to keep that building, whatever. Do something. Go get a soda, come back, and zone some more. And then that way you kind of like have a somewhat steady pace of like these people kind of like trickling in, nice and easy. And then that way people will just die like a trickle. They'll have like trickle death, nice and easy, and it won't overwhelm your death care stuff. All right, next thing here while we're in here. These stuff you can just put down at your leisure. They do help provide a little bit of benefit, but you may not have them depending on the DLC you have. So education, we kind of talked about that a little bit as we put down our elementary school. I don't know if I talked about it when I put down the high school. You're basically trying to meet the capacity here. So we're at 600 capacity, 281. So I threw down a second one because I knew we were coming up to it, and we're getting right on the heels at 7,000 citizens. We're gonna hit that big town milestone and get high density, and we're gonna do some high density in here. Not the whole thing, just some of it. So I know I need the infrastructure in here to have at least 2 elementary schools. You'll come to find that about 2 elementary schools for every high school is the ratio, even though it's like kind of like 3 to 1 in terms of like capacity, because they have 1,000. These guys have 300. You'll just come to find that for whatever reason, because I don't know, I just playing this game long enough, I have about 2 elementary schools for every high school, and in an area like this, I'd have about 2 elementary schools and 1 high school, and which is what I have, which is about appropriate. Once again, you're not trying to get green everywhere. You're just trying to make sure that your capacity is higher than your eligibility. If you can adjust the budget up if you like, I just tend to put down the building because it's usually more cost effective to keep your budget at 100% and then add more assets than it is to raise your budget, say, at 150% and not put down the asset down. Okay. So that's education. And as you go, you'll put down, your university, and you may only need 1 or 2 universities in your whole entire city to handle your education needs. And you'll use this here. We'll go over education real quick. I have a whole other YouTube video on education that kind of goes into these numbers. But yes, you can see the pie chart. We're at 7 uneducated, 44 educated, 33 well-educated, 13 highly educated. We're getting to a point now where it's close to put Industry 4.0 and education boost on. Once basically I hit big town, unlock the first campus, start putting the first campus down, my plan will be just to let it run. Probably till maybe we get to so we'll be at say 7,000-8,000 citizens, because the buildings will level up, more people move in. I'll do a little zoning. By the time we get to, we'll say 8,000 or 10,000 citizens, people will have we'll start going to school, and we'll have gotten through the university process. I'll start implementing Education Boost. At that point, Education Boost, it'll flood my schools because everyone will be wanting to go to school, which is what you want in your city, because educated citizens level up buildings, higher level buildings, increase land value and provide you with more taxes. I think they have less trash consumption or something like that. There's somewhere it tells you kind of like the benefits of higher buildings. But at that point, you may have a sizable industry depending on how you've been zoning. So just be mindful if you have probably, we'll say, 3 like blocks this size, maybe 2, maybe even 4. Once you hit education boost on and you start seeing these guys clamoring for more and more work, once you start seeing your numbers here in the education menu where it's about 5% or so, we'll say 5 uneducated, it's like 35, and maybe your highly educated is getting like that 20 range. At that point, it's a good idea to implement Industries 4.0 policy. And like I said, your industry is going to go abandoned. It's going to go through some turmoil and flux at that point when you do it. So like I said, if the industry is kind of small, you can ride the wave. If you've implemented this and your city is a lot bigger, or you've just been putting down a lot of industry because you just want a lot of industry, and maybe you got 4, 5, 6 blocks of this, then maybe what you can do instead is something like this: paint a district over top of like 1 block or 2 blocks, go into the policy here, and then implement Industry 4.0 under the city planning piece here. I think it's under here somewhere. Yeah, it's right here. And then just like let like that block or 2 kind of let go abandon and go through the turmoil. And then once it's kind of like settled down and things seem to be running smooth, just push that, zoning over to the next block. Let the next block kind of go through the turmoil. Basically the idea is just like do it in steps. That way your whole entire industry of like, maybe you're employing like 20,000 people in your industry, and they all go and they leave. You want just a couple thousand or whatever. I think you kind of get the idea. So that's education, in Industry 4.0 and education boost. Let's see what else we got here. Police and fire, like I said, I tend to use the small guys, and then let's use this guy for looks in like the big downtown kind of high, tall building area. You're going to use the fire helicopter depot with this guy here if you have the Park Life DLC and you also have the Natural Disasters DLC, because then your stuff's going to burn down. Not a big deal if you just use the Natural Reserve Park and the City Park, because like replacing the assets aren't that expensive. But if you start putting down like the zoo and the amusement park, those, especially the zoo, they're tens of thousands of dollars. So it's a lot cheaper just to like run this thing and not burn down like a $25,000 like lion exhibit than it is to over here where like, this, if a tent burns down, it's costs like $100 or something. I don't know, $1,000. Who cares? Let's see. Transit. I have a video on transit. We running some bus in here. I really don't want to go over transit. That'll take too long. But once you unlock bus, go ahead and run some bus routes. I got like 2 collapsing routes in here. It's going to level up your buildings. You just want to make sure the real big key things about transit is just like really like 3 main concepts you got to understand with transit. One is the biggest movement of people is residential to commercial. So high density residential to high density commercial is your biggest movement of folks. So that's where you want to put your transit. You want to collect people in your residential areas and drop them off at your commercial and basically bring them back. That's one concept you have to understand. The second concept is transit lines have a vehicle capacity. So like this line here, I got 9 buses on it, and it's doing pretty good. I got 1 bus here that's like at 30, so it's at full capacity. This stop here, there's no stops that are over say 30, and I got 1 bus that's full. That's about where I usually want to be. I usually don't want to have too many more people that, like I don't want to have Sims have to wait more than like say 1 or 2 buses. Like I wouldn't want to be at a bus stop or a train stop waiting for the train and not be able to get on the train when it shows up, right? So don't make your citizens do that. And in order to do that, you end up putting like a bazillion buses on the line, and they end up queuing, so they exceed the capacity, and you end up going to a bus stop here. And maybe we can find a bus here and go through it real quick. So if you go and you look in your city, and you have this bus here, right? Because you put like maybe this bus route has 30 buses on it or 100 buses. Who knows how many buses you put on here to try and keep up. And then the next bus is like right here waiting, and the next bus here is waiting. Then you're not doing it right. You're doing it actually really wrong. What you need to do is either change the route, add a second route to pull off some folks off of that line onto the new route. Maybe it goes in similar but not the same places. or upgrade this to tram or metro or something else that can handle the capacity. Because when buses are waiting, they're queued up waiting for this bus to leave. Any transit really. If you have any transit where the vehicle is waiting on the say the previous vehicle or the vehicle ahead of it to leave the docking area to order, so then for them to pull up and exchange passengers, then you've exceeded the capacity of the line. And what you need to do is change the transit somehow. Because what you want is your buses to just like be flowing. Like transit should be flowing. Like the bus leaves, and then like the next bus should just kind of like pull up, drop off people, pick people up, and then that leaves. The next bus just drops off people, pulls people up. You don't want like a line of like 5 buses here. If you have a line of like 20 buses, you're way messing it up. You're just causing traffic and harm to your city, really. So go ahead and fix that. So that's all I have to say about transit. Anything else I'm missing here? I think that's it. If you have the Park Life DLC and you want to make a bunch of money on parks, just if you know that the biggest movement of people is from residential to commercial, do like I did. Put it a beautiful. I think this came out really beautiful. It looks really good. Beautiful park in between. Very limited connections. So the only connection really is the roundabout, and they can't walk because it's highway road. And then have them pay to go to the shortcut, bring transit to one side, bring transit to the other side, have it zip around, and you'll make tons of money. I think we went over the Industries DLC. I think you were on board for that, so hopefully I showed you how to set that up. Of course, I have a whole Industries DLC series on how to do that, so you don't have any symbols and get any issues there. And I think that's going to be it. Let me just look through the other milestones real quick to see if I see anything that pops up in my mind before I let you go. Just be careful with high density, like I said, with the death waves. Office, like I said, I talked about the outside connection stuff. You can use that to help you determine if you need a zone office or industry, or a zone office if you don't want industry. What else we got in here? Just trying to think. I think that's really it. Like I said, if you have questions or if you like the series, post a comment below. Because a lot of times folks, post comments, they ask me questions or whatever. It just spurs like a new video, and we can go over it and talk about it and all that fun stuff. This is the milestone we need to get to. Once you unlock the cemetery, you're kind of like on a race to get to this milestone, because your cemeteries are going to fill up, and you need to get to the crematorium. You don't have to like rush to it, but just be mindful that try not to be like me and spend like 400 years planting trees and letting 5 cemeteries fill up. Of course, once you get crematorium, you can throw some down, empty some cemeteries, and if you end up putting out a couple extra, just move them to like the new expanded areas. Let's see, anything else here? I think that's it. I'll go ahead and go out here. So I hope, like I said, you enjoy the series. I hope it helps you in your journey, starting your city, and I hope you'll continue watching the Let's Play, and maybe you'll get some more nuggets of truth out of it, or interact. And once again, just join me on Twitch. My name is New Build Cities. Just take my YouTube channel name and smash it all together in one word and search me on Twitch, and you'll find me. Or down in the detail section of the video usually is a link for my channel. Click on it, send me a follow, hang out, say hi to chat, ask questions, or tell me what video you liked or what one you didn't like, whatever you want to do. Help me build a city. Tell me to put a tree over here instead of over there, whatever it may be. And it'd be great, because I love to interact with the folks here. So I will leave you with, I wish you the best in whatever endeavors you do after this. I wish you the best in creating the most magnificent, beautiful, well-functioning city that you can build. And as always, happy building.